to hand over to the 9/11 Commission. They destroyed them instead. No one's going to pay any jail time for that. No one's ever going to account for that because the CIA can do whatever the hell they want. It is ridiculous, top to bottom, A to Z. It is ridiculous, and the fact that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is still just referred to as, he's the 9/11 mastermind. There's no problem at all about this. It just goes to show the depravity of the entire situation and the fact that it is based on lies. And I forgot one of the best parts. KSM's children, of course, were also abducted and tortured themselves, including with the use of insects to try to find out where KSM was hiding. So the utter depravity of what was done in order to extract this phony information, which the 9/11 Commission report was based on, is the real elephant in the living room here. And that's why there will never, ever be a real trial. At the very best, they'll put together some sort of kangaroo court, and it's only a question of when and how that comes together, but it ain't going to be on the 14th anniversary.
James, really the only other thing I see kind of buzzing around as again, the 14th anniversary approaches, and I don't think there's really, as the years go by, the interest sort of lessens. The only other thing I see going on in the build-up to the 14th anniversary is there is still this kind of battle over the 28 pages from the 9/11 omission report, and it's got different people battling against each other, and I'll include a link to that story as we include links to everything we cite here. And this is the 237th episode of New World Next Week. So we'll move, James, to our second story this week, a geopolitical update that's super important considering Djibouti is the only permanent military base the U.S. has or had in Africa. Take this from Press TV. China to take over strategic U.S. military base in Djibouti. The tiny African state of Djibouti has reportedly ordered the U.S. to vacate its secondary Obak military base in the nation in a bid to turn over the installation to Chinese military and 10,000 troops, raising major concerns in D.C., which holds the largest military base in Djibouti, which is called Camp Lemonnier. Quote, the announcement made the day after U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry visited Djibouti last May is deeply worrying for Pax Americana, for it comes on top of a major package of economic investments made by China that has Djiboutian President Guella openly talking about how important his new friends in Asia are. That comes from a great piece on Counterpunch, published this past Monday. So according to this report, the U.S. is about to lose one of its military bases in Djibouti, home to America's largest permanent military installation in Africa that includes 4,000 troops and a fleet of U.S. assassination drones that run bombing missions in regional Muslim countries like Yemen and Somalia as part of Washington's official targeted killing program. The Horn of Africa nation, strategically located in the critical entrance from the Indian Ocean to the Red Sea, lies at the gateway to the busy Suez Canal and provides a port to neighboring Ethiopia. The report further points out that the U.S. Defense Department says the U.S. Defense Department pays Djibouti $63 million a year for the use of the drone base Camp Lemonnier, which is one of the largest drone bases in the world. China came along with a much more generous chunk of change, and this report on counterpunch.org, written by Thomas Mountain, he breaks it down pretty well, leading up to the illogical conclusion that we're going to start to hear the chatter, threataganda, that Djibouti, they violate human rights and they need regime change and all that, yada, yada. So, James, this is probably an important story, as you and I think, have been kind of talking about Africa and perhaps more importantly, AFRICOM for many, many years here.
Exactly right. AFRICOM, of course, wants to get more boots on the ground in Africa and is having a hard time doing so because China is spending the infrastructure money that a lot of these governments are using to their own advantage, and so it's win-win for all of them. For example, the $3 billion railway that China has helped construct between Ethiopia and Djibouti in order to facilitate the removal of goods from the African continent towards China and out to the ports so that they can ship them up to China. So this is, I think, part of the incredibly important part of the 2D chess game that's taking place right now. I think there's a lot of movement that's possible in Africa, specifically with regards to the U.S.-China rivalry or the U.S.-China rivalry that's taking place on the 2D chessboard. I think we're going to see a lot of movement like this one. And that's why I think we have to keep our eye on Africa and what's going on there right now. And I think people should be taking a look at the reporting of people like Thomas Mountain, who have done some, I think, some really good reports on this. And expect more on this in the future. I mean, obviously, I don't think this is just going to rest here. The U.S. still has some puppet dictators up their sleeves that they can pull some strings on in the African continent to try to block what China's doing, etc., etc. So as I say, I think this is one of the most kinetic parts of the 2D chessboard right now, and there's going to be a lot more movement on this in the near future.
So, James, finally, our third segment this week. Some good news next week about how the people are fighting back high-tech and low-tech style against the surveillance state and their bankers, who always work hand-in-hand with them. We'll take a story from the Washington Post. Germans so scared of surveillance, they microwave their ID cards, and they snarkily note, when it comes to privacy, Germans can't take a joke. After it was revealed that the U.S. NSA had intercepted calls in Germany, sales of old-school typewriters skyrocketed reportedly in Germany. So it's not only American surveillance that Germans are concerned about. However, on Tuesday, a 29-year-old man was arrested at Frankfurt Airport after authorities noticed he had microwaved his German identification card, this coming from the Deutsche Press agency. According to a police statement, the man was concerned that his privacy might be violated by the microchip that has been embedded in all German IDs since 2010. The man now faces either a fine or time in jail for the offense of illegally modifying official documents. According to German law, ID documents are state property. Skepticism of state authorities is deeply entrenched in German